Hello and welcome to this News9 special. Muizzu, who is now the opposition candidate in Maldives, is all slated to become the president of Maldives. Now, this is after he beat incumbent president Ibrahim Solih in a second round runoff. This could see a shift in the archipelago's policies with pro-China stand, especially with Muizzu actually saying that he favored China openly and in public. The Election Commission of Maldives announced that Muizzu had received 54% of the ballots, while Solih received 46%. About 85% of the 282,000 eligible voters in the Maldives, known for its pristine beaches as well as its resorts, turned up at more than 586 polling stations across the 187 islands. Now, the outgoing Maldivian President Solih had championed India First policy during his tenure in power, and he will remain as the president till Muizzu's inauguration. Now, the coalition that was backing Muizzu had supported the Chinese attempt to enter Maldives. How do they do that? Well, the Chinese have been investing in Maldives, especially in its infrastructure projects, and have also loaned to the Maldivian government. So with all this, China seems to be slowly but steadily having a foothold. In fact, to discuss more about this, I am joined in by Ambassador J.K. Tripathi, who is a former Indian diplomat, Major General Sanjay Mason, retired defense and geostrategic political expert, Robinder Sachdev, foreign affairs expert. Now, let me in fact come to you, Ambassador, first. J.K. Tripathi, the first question that I have for you is this. How important is Maldives for India? Because it is a long relationship from our time of independence. We have been taking care of their security concerns, trade concerns, and probably even being an umbrella and shield when it comes to its external and internal threats. But recently, Maldives has gone completely on a direction that probably India's strategic space did not think it could go in. How do you see the importance of Maldives right now?
Well, not even right now, but Maldives had been important to India for India for quite some time, for at least past 30, 35 years. I remember when I was posted in Maldives from 1987 to 89, that was the time when a coup attempt was made and Indian forces intervened. But even that time, we regarded we took Maldives as strategically very important. Though there were no other embassies, not even Chinese. There were only two, three embassies, and China factor was not that much prominent in Maldivian politics. But now, geographically, you see, Maldives is is an archipelago of 1100 plus islands with a total land area of less than 278 square kilometers. But Maldives lies strategically at the junction of Eastern Indian Ocean and Western Indian Ocean, and it lies at the junction where 50% of India's trade and 80% of its energy import come via this route. So that makes Maldives more important. And nowadays, especially when when Pakistan tried to establish some terrorist camps in the northern islands of northern atolls of island, with the help of some Saudi terrorists. And now that China has been trying in Abdullah Yamin since Abdullah Yamin's time to to exert greater influence on Maldives by way of giving training in various sectors, by way of developing the Hulule International Airport, have a road bridge from capital Male to Hulule, which is about 8 miles. So China had done its bit, and Abdullah Yamin was very much in Chinese lap. Now, with defeat of Solih and with victory of Muizzu, who is again from the same party, People's Progressive Party of Maldives, which Yamin founded. Now, this should ring a warning bell for India, because while Soli was overtly pro-India, uh, Muizzu is not, and Muizzu has already told in his election manifesto that if he gets elected, then he will not, he will ask Indian armed forces to leave Maldives. Armed forces, he meant the Indian army, the contingent of Indian army, which gives training as well as few helicopters for training. So Maldives is now under Muizzu, Maldives will certainly drift towards China, which will have to have a Herculean task in getting back to our fold or getting back to the pro-Indian. So this is going to be a challenging thing, I suppose.
It's going to be a
Yes.
challenging situation. Let me, in fact, get in Robin Sachdev, foreign affairs expert, into the discussion. Mr. Sachdev, how do you see the situation in Maldives? Because when you're talking about the China factor, let us know wherever China has intervened in an economy, it has, in fact, broken the back of that economy. We're talking about Sri Lanka, we're talking about China, and now experts say that Maldives, which is technically having almost 70% of its external debt owed to China, could be the next waiting Sri Lanka that is going to happen. So, what are we looking at? Will Muizzu actually do a Rajapaksa to Maldives?
Thank you so much. A pleasure, honor to be with you and General Minister and Ambassador Tripathi. Yeah, I mean, in a big picture, if I were to step back, in our neighborhood, the countries which are there, we often see this pattern. One government in power, let's say pro-India, maybe for one term, two term, that party loses. The next government which comes, then, if not exactly anti-India, they lean more towards China. We are seeing it in all our neighborhood, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh would be there also, Nepal also, right? Maldives. Forget Pakistan, that's perennial in another camp. So one, I would see Maldives in that pattern, like for some years with India and some years away from India. But in the case of Maldives, I think it's gotten more severe because this Sole, the last 5 years, yeah, sure, he was more pro-India, but the previous one, Yamin, was totally with China, and that's when they built up these, various infrastructure projects. And now this guy back and very overtly, very clearly, saying that they want to work more with China. Though, so that would definitely and is a matter of concern, as Ambassador Tripathi has said. Now, China investing via or through or in the mechanism of the Belt Road Initiative, definitely many countries have fallen into that trap, including Sri Lanka, and some others are out there. However, now it may be so that because of more awareness of the Chinese, debt policies, the countries which do take on the BRI projects would get slightly better terms than in the past. I think that's a hunch of mine. And even China itself uh, is seeing that, there's a blowback to the way it was purely extracting, its pound of flesh via the BRI projects. But yes, the BRI projects would go ahead, the infrastructure projects and whichever ones they may further, imagine or create with Maldives. And that embeds China deeper and deeper into Maldives, without a doubt. Though it's understood also that Maldives, it's not that Maldives will totally shut out India. Of course, they are talking about, some of our army folks out there to be sent back to India. But Maldives realizes that its closest neighbor, big neighbor, is India, right? So it's not that India's influence will go down. Yeah, it'll go down somewhat. But it's more that China's influence, which was lower or lesser, will grow in Maldives.
Well, Chinese influence growing in Maldives. Let me get in Major General Sanjay Mason into the discussion. Major General, how do you see the Chinese influence growing in Maldives? We have boots on the ground and probably they'll be asked to move out. But, from technically being what we would like to say a country that has been protected by India's security umbrella, moving into the Chinese camp, it could create a lot of havoc, isn't it? You have major powers in the Indian Ocean region, because the Indian Ocean region now becoming the only most important trading route that is there, because the way it is strategically situated, one of the biggest shipping lanes. And India having a strategic presence in Maldives is very important, but then local conditions could be very tough. This election and the previous election also was fought on India's presence in Maldives. So how do you in fact think that we would be able to win the kind of lost public support in Maldives, and how strategically important is to have boots on the ground in Maldives?
Yeah, I think you have raised three, four issues. The first is you have raised about China. How does it impact us? See, let's be very clear. After the Russia-Ukraine war, there have been large number of fallouts in this world. After the Russian invasion, what has happened today in, between Azerbaijan and Armenia in the Nagorno-Karabakh area, we have seen that they have gone unhindered, the Azerbaijan forces, and they have practically displaced the entire Armenian population from there, and they have annexed it. So what is the implication coming on to? Implication is that today's world, with the Russian, whatever they have done, and you look even today in African countries, military coups and all are taking place, and things are going very, very different. So my fear is that China is today now going to take advantage of this geopolitical scenario. Therefore, what is the best lucrative target? It has got three concerns. The biggest concern it is obviously in Taiwan in the Indo-Pacific. Second concern is the borders between India and China. And the third concern is the competition between India, China, and also between India and America. Now, let us address the concerns, their Indo and Chinese so-called competition. Now, this same competition is also going to take place in the Indian Ocean, especially in the area of Maldives. And that is how this will assume importance. And rightfully brought out by the earlier panelists, this area, or rather Maldives now, is going to become a competition between India and between China. Now, who can have better influence? Time will dictate, but as on date, India's influence has been much better. See, let us understand the concerns of Maldives. Maldives has got some few concerns. Firstly, it has got a huge EEZ. How does it maintain it? Obviously, the first responders is India. We are the closest. Geographically, we are the closest. Climatically, and today there are predictions, but that by 2050, about 80% of Maldives will be submerged. Where will these people go to? These are all a lot of implications. Once the islands are getting submerged, a lot of these people will go to the nearest island, maybe Sri Lanka, and maybe they start coming to India. So this is going to be a big, big concern for both, for India and also for Maldives. Now for Maldives, if these are the concerns, who's going to be the first responder? Ambassador Tripathi also brought out when he was there. 1988, the Indian Army actually assisted there in terms of Operation Cactus, and we are aware what was happening there. Politically, we stabilized that nation. So what I'm trying to say is we are the first and foremost immediate responders. So therefore, let's be very clear, they require us. Maldives require us. Now they will play a game between China and Maldives. Tomorrow, if India does not toe their line in certain issue, they will go to China, the way Sri Lanka has done. And not only that, they will also now start going to Pakistan, because during Yameen's time, there was a lot of radicalization happening. Radicalization is also going to be expected. See, the PPM, this party which has just won the elections, the other party, they were generally fairly liberal. Now, this is more of a authoritative kind of a rule which is going to set in. So all these points out that Pakistan will exploit it, China will exploit it, so radicalization is expected. So these are major, major issues. So what are the strategic concerns to India? Number one, I would say the string of pearls policy which China is advocating. So therefore, in this race between India and China in Maldives, now our diplomacy has to be of the highest order, our political will has to be of the highest order. We will have to be really making inroads into Maldives despite the present dispensation now Muizzu is taking over. So that's a reality. The next concern is we have 25,000 Indians settled down over there. They are expats. So tomorrow, with the kind of radicalization happening, there is chances that they can be taken hostage. Any possibility, any scenario is possible. The way Islamic fundamentalism is going on, and probably that is also one of the likelihood. And the third thing is that the radicalization I've already mentioned. Yeah, radicalization is very, very important, which is now going to impact. So all these are security concerns, and in 2021, I have read it from the open sources that there is a place known as Uthru Tila Falu Island, which is very close to Malé, that is the capital. And there, India has signed a treaty in 2021 to make a port, which is to be having a dockyard and also harbor. Now it will be jointly run, and obviously it has got military connotations, and we have some people there deployed on ground. Now, will this be allowed to flourish with the new government? That's also a question mark. The Chinese will not be interested that we have it. So it's going to be a very critical situation for India. China will definitely try to exploit this situation. And therefore, today we politically, diplomatically, and in every manner, we have to be very, very proactive here in Maldives because it has got long-term security implications. And last but not the least, how many islands are there? I think about 1,200 islands. How many are occupied? Only 200. 1,000 islands are uninhabited. Tomorrow, anyone can go and sit down in these islands. Let us not forget Myanmar. We have the Coco Islands there of Myanmar, which has been leased to China. They have a listening post there. So China's string of pearls policy gives a lot of advantages to China. There are and for India also. That is why we are going for all these drones, etc. Long range ones, the high altitude, long endurance, drones. This is the reason we are going, so that all these uninhabited islands, we can keep a track about it. Radical elements, Chinese elements can operate there, and therefore we have to be very active in terms of security, in terms of diplomacy, and I've highlighted these concerns.